We're back in the saddle here with the SoCal Business and Basketball Report here in Southern California. Tonight we're in Temecula, California, and after a couple of weeks in Ohio and reflecting over the holidays, it's nice to get back to work here in Southern California. Of course, we see this piece of turf here in Southern California affects the entire country and the whole world. As we saw last week, the California teachers' pension owned such a large share of the Timken company that they were eventually able, the world leading ball bearing company, had to split their stock into a steel company and a ball bearing company that are both publicly traded because of this this pension here in California was such a large shareholder and wanted to unlock shareholder value. So we impact a lot of the world, and tonight in Temecula, we're 85 miles southeast of Los Angeles, so it's not as far as people think from LA, 60 miles northeast of San Diego, and 30 miles due north of Escondido, which is North San Diego County. So there's 20 million people within 2 hours driving distance of here. A lot of wineries, a lot of tourism. The Pechanga Indian Casino is the largest casino in California. So that's in the area here. And we're at Rancho Christian High School, which for years was basically a kindergarten through 8th grade school. About 4 years ago, they added the high school and put an emphasis on basketball. In my opinion, they have the #1 player in the state of California, Evan Mobley. Rancho Christian, it's almost like a professional basketball team. Last night, they were on ESPN playing in Memphis, Tennessee. They played Memphis East, and they beat them. Memphis East has the #1 senior in the country right now, James Wiseman, and Evan Mobley held up very well last night. And I think the guys were a little tired tonight. They ran into a buzzsaw in Santa Margarita. We'll get into that a little bit later. As I mentioned, the Temecula area, there's a lot of wineries, resorts. If you go back all the way to the 60s is when the wineries started here. Now, Napa started 100 years before that, but it was almost a desert area here, and you do have some rolling hills, but they brought in the irrigation and the wineries. The Callaway Wine Company winery was one of the initial wineries here in the area. Of course, Callaway had the golf company as well. Today, you're seeing an expansion of this, and like a lot of other things that have developed in California, there's been a large amount of Chinese investment here in the Temecula area. One of the big projects right now, 12 Oaks, it's the largest of the 5 large projects right now. They have a Marriott hotel that's going in there. There's hotel rooms, there's wineries, there's custom homes, vineyards. It's a couple $100 million project that's happening right now, and you see the EB-5 visas granted to people from China and other places who would invest $500,000 or more in the program, and it gives them access to a visa. So that's been a big part of the investment and the development in this area. I mentioned Pechanga, the Indian casino. It is the largest in California. They have 4,500 slots, 200,000 feet. Okay, there are some other casinos in California with more square footage, but in terms of the business volume, Pechanga is the biggest in California. So 153 table games, 54 tables in the poker room, 1,200 seat showroom, and then 522 rooms in their hotel. The other note I'd mentioned, Vicenzo was actually the first winery in the area here, but I mentioned Callaway, and there's going to be about 100 wineries total by the year 2020. That's one of the big kicks they're on now. The Temecula Valley Ballroom and rather Balloon and Wine Festival is a big event each year, and that brings a lot of people to the area. And I think what you'd see through the years is a lot of people from the San Diego, from the Orange County area, would look to move over here. Families, initially it was retirees looking at the wineries and that type of thing, but if you can get a 4-bedroom house for $500,000 to $600,000, that's less than half of what it would cost in the La Jolla area, in the Newport Beach area, in those types of areas. The other thing that's happened in this area, it's almost a you build it and they will come type of thing. Just north of here in the Riverside area, there's a lot of the warehouses that we talked about last year. But you see a lot of the tilt-up wall industrial type of buildings and business condos that went up that a lot of builders just put up hoping that they would sell. It's a little bit of a rocky period around 2008, but eventually all of these buildings did sell, and they filled in. Some of the other companies, and I've mentioned to you before, I've been in over 20,000 businesses throughout Southern California and been in just about every industrial park, including Temecula here. American Materials is a big fastener, tool and fitting company in the area here. Paulson Manufacturing, they do the firefighter goggles and industrial safety products. I helped a motocross company down here over 10 years ago. There's a lot of the mountain biking, the ATV type of activity, and it led to Floyd Landis, who was the cycler who initially had won the 2006 Tour de France, and he did quite a bit of training in the area, in the Murrieta, Temecula area. Around here, he's initially from the Lancaster County area in Pennsylvania. A Mennonite family is where he came from, and but he had that Tour de France was actually taken away due to performance enhancing drugs. But I remember back around that time frame, his name was big in the area here. A lot of people came across him as he trained throughout the whole area. There's mountains, and it's good for cycling. He was initially a mountain biker, and he changed to the road racing. He was an animal in the mountains. He, in fact, as recent as last year, his name was out there where he participated in a whistleblower lawsuit against Lance Armstrong, and that case finally ended last year. Lance Armstrong settled. It was a $100 million case, and Lance Armstrong settled for $5 million, and Floyd Landis, he received $1.1 million in that whistleblower case. In terms of the basketball tonight, it was a tremendous slate. We had 6 games. We had Linfield beat Temecula Prep. San Bernardino lost to Eisenhower 58-56 in a really good game. Eisenhower, of course, we've mentioned before, Ronnie Lott is a alum of Eisenhower High School in San Bernardino County. Rancho Verde beat Temecula Valley. Jackson Turner is a pretty good player for Rancho Verde. He's going to Arizona on a football scholarship, but he's also going to participate in basketball as a walk-on the basketball team. And he's a guy you could have on the floor in the Pac-12 for sure. Torrey San Antonio is another pretty good player. He has offers from Cal State Fullerton at this point, and he plays for Rancho Verde, pretty good player. Riverside Poly beat Roosevelt 60-59, another close game there. Lamont Butler, who we've spoken about before, solid point guard for Riverside Poly. He hit a big three-pointer tonight, and they did win the game. They prevailed. And Lamont has offers from Harvard, some Pac-12 schools, like Washington, for example. In the area, you have University of California, Santa Barbara, and he's a very good student as well, so it'll be interesting to track Lamont. Rancho Christian, they flew in this morning from Memphis, arrived, and then they had the game tonight. They lost, actually, to Santa Margarita, and they beat Santa Margarita a few weeks ago. And Max Agbonkpolo from Santa Margarita, one of my favorites, had a tremendous game tonight. It was quite a bit for Rancho Christian to fly from Memphis all the way to here, playing there last night. They hung in there for about 3/4 of the game and just wore down. It should be noted that Santa Margarita had a game against Orange Lutheran last night. So these kids today, it's amazing that they can turn it around and play the next day, but they do that quite a bit. The final game tonight, Mission Bay, they lost to Corona Centennial, and Boogie Ellis, of course, plays for Mission Bay. He's headed to Duke next year. He had a solid game, and the Corona Centennial team, they could do some damage. From what I gather, I was not at the game, but they played Rancho Christian a few weeks ago, and Corona Centennial controlled the game. Rancho Christian took it over at the end and won it. But they have a couple of players. Jalen Clark has offers from UCLA and Ohio State. DJ Davis has offers from Fullerton and UC Riverside. I'd watch this kid. Both of those players from Corona Centennial are juniors, but I would track DJ Davis. He's small, he's 6 feet, he's 150 pounds, but he's got that it factor, that spunk, and I think some good things could happen with him moving forward. Well, I mentioned Max. Some of the other good players that played, Jake Kyman, of course, from Santa Margarita, who's headed to UCLA. He had a very good game, scored a lot of points. Shengzi Lee from Santa Margarita, 6'11" player. He's committed to BYU. He had a couple of key rebounds down the stretch. And then with Rancho Christian, we've mentioned Evan Mobley. Isaiah, his brother's headed to USC, so he looked pretty good tonight. They were all a little bit tired, but Dominic Harris, a junior who's headed to Gonzaga, he's committed to Gonzaga. He's going to have to be very important for Rancho Christian in the state playoffs in terms of controlling the pace. If they run into Sierra Canyon, they're going to have to slow the game down and get the ball inside, as Sierra wants to get out and run with their athletes. So Dominic will be really important there. And then Rancho also has a very good shooter in Luke Turner, a 6'6" sophomore. So those were most of the key players. There were some other good players. It was a great day of basketball, and it was nice to get back in the area. Appreciate you joining us this week, and we'll look forward to speaking with you next week from another neighborhood in Southern California.